going on with A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf? It feels like there's some smoke there. Is there going to be any fire, and are those guys going to be, on a new team perhaps?
There is some smoke there. I mean, teams are calling. I know that. I haven't got the sense either organization has done anything to say that they would trade either A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf. You get great players who are not under contract, and everyone thinks they're available. I think they want to get a deal done. I think they end up doing it, but until they do, teams are going to keep calling the Seahawks and the Titans as well. Of all the things that we've seen the last 3 or 4 years, this is the biggest to me.
I'm hearing a lot of rumors about 3 wide receivers in particular, one being a stud and the other 2 being bona fide stars in my opinion. And I figured it's best that we address these rumors and really discuss the validity of whether or not we could see A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf getting traded. Now, before we get to the content, just want to remind you guys we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. We're also going to begin live streaming on twitch.tv/TF Mikerophone, where I'm just going to be chatting with you guys, watching football highlights, and I just wanted an additional means of connecting with you guys in as intimate of a setting as possible. And of course, if you want to see me talk about anything that pertains to outside of sports, like general commentary and whatnot, check us out on Flight Mike TV. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? If you remember, over a week ago, the internet was shattered by Tyreek Hill getting traded from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins. Now, a tiny little asterisk in that entire situation was the fact that the New York Jets really did their absolute best to get their hands on Tyreek Hill. Ultimately, Tyreek Hill wanted to really play with Tua Tagovailoa. Jokes aside, he really wanted to go to Miami. I'm assuming it was a weather thing or the fact that that team is really up and coming, and I guess money had something to do with it, and the New York Jets were left at the altar. Now, the Jets are in a very interesting situation. Year 1 with Zach Wilson didn't necessarily go as well as they'd hope. As a matter of fact, there was a point where Mike White looked like he was a better quarterback than the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. All in all, just to be fair, it is very difficult to play quarterback in the NFL, and giving Zach Wilson the reins to a rebuilding team under a rookie head coach that was way more competent than the rookie head coach that Trevor Lawrence had to deal with was still a very difficult task. And although he had a very rough rookie year, there is definitely potential in his game, and something that will without a doubt always unlock a quarterback's potential is a star wide receiver. So with that being said, the number 1 name on the list to look out for is A.J. Brown. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would the Tennessee Titans trade A.J. Brown? This is all as a result of the recent dominoes that have been falling, primarily due in part to Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill getting these gigantic contracts. I don't think you guys understand the contracts that are being given out. Previously, the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL was DeAndre Hopkins, making $27 million a year, with $42 million guaranteed. And then there were players that were tiers below that. You had Amari Cooper averaging $20 million a year, making $40 million guaranteed. You had Michael Thomas that signed a contract extension, making him the highest paid wide receiver 3 years ago. And right now, he is only averaging $19 million a year with $35 million guaranteed. What I'm trying to say is these wide receivers are creeping into quarterback territory really quickly. And this is just for Tyreek Hill and Davante Adams. You can make the argument that their best years are behind them. It's really hard to point out to Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill and say that they're done. Tyreek Hill is just 28 years old. Davante Adams is 30 years old. But it wouldn't be the boldest thing to say that Davante Adams isn't going to give you the same production at the age of 30 as he once did at the age of 26. Now, obviously, in Davante Adams' case, they were willing to take that risk with him because he has chemistry with Derek Carr. In Tyreek Hill's case, they were willing to take that risk with him because he was 28 years old, and Mike McDaniel is really trying to build a very fast offense with Jalen Waddle on the other side. What I'm trying to get to at this point is the 2019 NFL draft class might be due for some contract extension soon, which means you could expect Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, and DK Metcalf all to get huge contract extensions. And typically, whenever a contract extension is given out, usually you're beating the top wide receiver in the market. Just as we saw this past offseason, Davante Adams beat out DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill beat out Davante Adams. And that's a huge reason why Tyreek Hill didn't re-sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. Initially, he was supposed to re-sign with the Chiefs. Now it's at a situation where it's just not sustainable for the Chiefs to pay Tyreek Hill $30 million a year when you're paying Patrick Mahomes about $44-45 million a year. Which brings us to the current situation that we're in. The Tennessee Titans currently have AJ Brown on their roster. He's entering the final year of his rookie contract, and he could receive a new deal that makes him one of the highest paid wide receivers in the league. And when you hear what their general manager John Robinson had to say in response to this, it wouldn't necessarily make you feel confident about the situation. Robinson said, "Right now we are just trying to get through this free agency period, seeing where we've landed cap-wise. AJ is an important part of what we do. He's a great teammate, he works hard, he's about what we're about. AJ is a Titan, and we want to keep AJ a Titan, and that's our goal this offseason, or whenever that manifests itself, to come to an agreement to keep him around." That isn't necessarily stopping teams from trying to recruit AJ Brown. According to Rich Cimini via JPA Football, AJ Brown is a name to watch for the New York Jets in a potential trade. AJ Brown is familiar with Elijah Moore. They both went to the same college with one another, so it would be nice to see them both reunite with one another. Chances are the Jets would be able to give AJ Brown the contract he needs. Zach Wilson, who has a rocket arm, finally has a deep ball threat that he could become acclimated to. And then you have Jalen Hurts, who is doing whatever it takes to recruit AJ Brown. I mean, look at this tweet. AJ Brown tweeted, "I'm tired of all this just like y'all." And you have Jalen Hurts saying that I tried to recruit him to Alabama. We've been very close ever since, and he's one of my best friends. You have Jalen Hurts trying to flirt with him and pretty much try to get him to join the Philadelphia Eagles. And honestly, it's something that we should all keep an eye on, because if the Tennessee Titans decide to go a different direction or feel like that capital is utilized better elsewhere than overpaying for AJ Brown, then there's a chance that he could be on his way out, especially if you could get like a first round pick and a second round pick for him. That's a very realistic scenario. Now, what's interesting is it's not only AJ Brown that's in this situation. You also have Deebo Samuel, who without a doubt is going to get re-signed in San Francisco. He is way too crucial to what the 49ers do. He is the bona fide superstar of that offense. But then we have DK Metcalf situation, which is significantly different from the Tennessee Titans situation with AJ Brown. In DK Metcalf's situation, you have a absolute star of a wide receiver that had tremendous chemistry with Russell Wilson. The problem is Russell Wilson just got traded from the Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos for a plethora of draft capital. But in addition to that, the Seattle Seahawks released Bobby Wagner. Now you have Drew Lock with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Will Dissly, and it doesn't make a lot of sense at this point. You factor that with the fact that Pete Carroll said that he wants to employ a more conservative attack where he runs the ball more, and now you have a situation on our hands. Now, I want to give you guys a heads up that so far, Pete Carroll said that they have no plans whatsoever to trade DK Metcalf. The problem is I don't trust Pete Carroll anymore, because he said the exact same thing about Russell Wilson, and about 7 days later, Russell Wilson got traded. Now, of course, Pete Carroll isn't 100% the individual that's making these decisions, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a completely barren roster, not really have any quarterback to throw to your star wide receiver, and then decide to pay a tremendous sum of money to said star wide receiver. It would make a lot more sense for the Seattle Seahawks to take DK Metcalf and trade him elsewhere and recoup some draft capital so they could really kickstart their rebuild. It seems like they are rebuilding. I don't think they are interested in doing a little half rebuild where they keep Tyler Lockett and keep DK Metcalf and are content with trying to compete to be in the NFL's purgatory. I think if you're going to suck, you need to lean all the way into sucking, recoup as much assets as you possibly could, and then ultimately, once that happens, you can rebuild, and if you do it properly, you'll be able to finish sooner rather than later. Now, so far, Lamar Jackson has tried to recruit DK Metcalf, saying that we got them guys, but you can slide. We welcome everyone here with open arms, and you definitely are one of them guys as well. Now, Lamar Jackson actually had a follow-up tweet to this saying, "All right, my bad, I shouldn't have tweeted that because now people are going to speculate all type of stuff, but hey, it's Twitter, let me tweet." Lamar Jackson has done this before. He's flirted with Antonio Brown on Twitter as well. So I think this isn't something that we should necessarily read into. I think it's also very important to mention that DK Metcalf has responded to all these rumors. He even quote tweeted my boy Jordan from JPA Football, who said teams are calling Seattle about trading for wide receiver DK Metcalf per rap sheet. DK quote tweeted this and said, I haven't heard anything per myself. So it's really funny to look at this because it makes a lot of sense why the Seattle Seahawks would move on from DK Metcalf. You want to sell high on him at the peak of his value, get some draft picks in return so you could rebuild as quickly as possible. I think the rumors are true. I think the Seattle Seahawks are listening to calls. I don't think they're actively shopping DK Metcalf, but if they get an offer that they can't refuse, then obviously you're going to trade DK Metcalf. Very similarly to what the Kansas City Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill and what the Green Bay Packers did with Devontae Adams. It's also important to note that Brandon Cooks is also bunched into this group. I feel like he doesn't get as much love because he's been putting up remarkable stats on really bad teams, but according to Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, the Texans have received multiple calls with trade interest in wide receiver Brandon Cooks and apparently want a second round pick in order to trade him. These are 3 stars that might be traded really soon. Make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications so you can be tapped into the latest NFL news. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.